Hey folks, how you doing out there? Another drinking a wink, Scorztember blended Scotch-o-rama. Sorry, I'm with you. I wanted to get a price on what we're going to talk about tonight, so it's kind of a rough start, and I forgot to look it up. So I want to do that right before I get going. Tonight we are going to talk about some continued blended scotches, and you know, as you've been sticking around here for a while, you know that I have plenty of expensive tastes when it comes to blended scotch, vatted scotch, all that kind of stuff. Ooh, it's on sale. Hey, I might be getting you with a sale. The My favorite kind of big name blended scotch of the maybe the big four: Johnnie Walker, Dewars, Chivas Regal, and Cutty Sark is and always been Dewars. Okay, we've talked about that Dewars many times. Whether we're talking about, I have a place for their lowest, the white label, and I have a fondness for their 21-year-old double, which I brought to you before, and everything in between. What's interesting is, again, the master distiller over there, her name is Stephanie McLeod. She's had a hand in a lot of the Dewars progress, because for many years Dewars just had, 3 core range offerings. Occasionally would have something else. Then there were some older ones. And she's just going to give it a facelift over the last, probably now we're talking about, I don't know when she became the master distiller there, excuse me, but it's masterful, okay? And she also has a hand in some of the single malt scotch whiskeys that are under the portfolio that is covered with Dewars. It's just really good work. But today we're going to talk about one that I have not talked about in a very long time. Today we're going to talk about this is kind of hard. In their original core range, we're going to talk about the third in their series in terms of going up in price and age, and we're going to talk about the Dewars 15-year-old. Okay, this has been age bottling has been around for a while, but there have been some subtle changes that we're going to talk about here. If you know this one, this is the one that comes in a nice, still comes in a nice, I don't know what this is, aluminum, tin, not sure, container. It's maybe unnecessary, but I like to keep it around because it kind of reminds me of like something of the old days, which I wasn't even around that for. I like it. I like that little tin thing. Maybe it's kind of superfluous these days. But there's not a lot of paper in here. Even the inside, the thing that kind of holds it, there's just a very little, kind of looks like recyclable holder in the bottom. So yeah, this looks like mostly recyclable material to a certain degree anyway. So it doesn't bother me too much. The other thing to note about this is again, in terms of the original series, that we have the white label, which we talked about. Okay, this one is you're going to find at parties and events. It's probably going to be that or Johnnie Walker red label. Then we have the 12-year-old, which used to be called the Ancestor. We've talked about this. This one recently, in the last couple of years, has been changed to double-aged in first fill bourbon casks. Okay, that means that it's just it held bourbon, then it makes its way to Scotland, and that's where they were filling it. The next one, which hasn't really gotten a refresh or a facelift in many years, is the 15-year-old, which we're going to talk about tonight. And as you can see, even interestingly enough, I think the last time I talked about this, we had a drink, and I have not had too much more of it, and I've already poured myself a dram. So this one definitely, I don't think I've touched this in probably a year and a half, and it's probably been more like a couple of years since I last had a 15. I know some of our friends and drinking winkers like this one a whole lot. I know Mike out there, Mike R. I know you like this one, and I like it too. Let's talk about it and just give you what the difference is. In terms of the range, as I stated, white label with no age statement, is usually in the just a 750 bottle. It's going to be in the $20 range. The the 12-year-old jumps up to around $27.99. You can get that on sale often. And then finally, the 15 usually is around $38, depending where you're at. Right now, if you're in the Chicagoland area, Binny's has it and it's at $31.99 on sale. So if you like what you hear here, this might be this one might be for you. All right. The one when I remember this in the past, okay, and this is probably our second or third bottle of this. I kind of remember that white label was the big, like an oak blast, more grain in there. I don't know if it's exactly the same ratio of single malt Scotch whiskies to grain, but that was the one that really popped with a lot of oak. And it was young, and it's probably a lot of grain whiskey, very oaky. And I still like it, but a little oaky and a little bit bland. The 12-year always struck me, even back before we had this refresh of first filled ex-bourbon casks, as being the one that was the most bourbon forward, and the one that reminded me mostly of single malt Scotch whiskey. Okay, not because there wasn't grain notes in there, it was very the bourbon note came out, that nutty note that comes from bourbon, vanilla touch came out, and I don't get a lot of honey and other things on the 12. Still probably oaky. This one always seemed to hit me as a little bit more of kind of like the older school blended Scotch that was a little more mellow and a little more leathery, if that makes any sense. These tastes are the first tastes I've had on this bottle in a very long time. The other thing to note of this one is this and the 12 are what they call double aged. Now, I always like to explain these things because we have these little terms like double aged or small batch or this and that, the other thing. What does double aged mean? Okay, so most of the time when we have whiskey, especially Scotch, we're going to talk about they make the distillate, okay, and then what they might do is you have some distillate of single malt Scotch whiskeys, you blend that together, and then you might have some I'm sorry, let me say that again. You have some single malt Scotch whiskeys. They've already had to be aged 3 years. You have some grain whiskey, who knows, and you put it into a barrel and you age it for a while, and then you sell it. Okay. What the double age process means is that they age the bourbon, they age the single malt Scotch whiskey blend, and they age the grain whiskey component in here, and there's a lot of it, separately, okay, for 15 years. So you have a barrel of single malt, a blend of single malt Scotch whiskeys, and you have a blend of any manner of grain. They both are aging separately for 15 years. That's the first aging. Then they literally pour it in a big vat together, and it sits in that vat. And then if you were just going to age that way, then you would just put it into bottles, okay, after it was sitting for, could be no matter of time in a metal vat of some sort, and then you bottle it. What they do is, after they do that, then they put it in so after 15 years separately, then they add it for some additional time in another cask to kind of smooth it out a little bit, they like the term marry it, okay? They advertise this as their extra smooth bottling. I think this one is supposed to be the most, or the presentation of this is the most approachable of the three. Now, in terms of pricing, we have the white label, and then we have, I think it's at 5 now, of the smooth series, and I'll talk about those later in the month. Okay, 5 of those. Those are usually in the 21, just a couple dollars more than just regular white label. Then comes the 12, and then comes the 15. So before that smooth series was released, it was just 3. So I like to think of the smooth series of 5 different types as one series. Those are 8-year-old, by the way. So so their pricing kind of works in terms of aging. On the nose on this, plenty of honey, barley sugar, wafers, and like crackers a little bit. Nice little note. I don't get a lot of smoke on this. It's one thing to note is that I get a little hint of peat on the 12-year. I'm sorry, on the white label, I get a little less on the 12-year, and now I get even less on this one, which wasn't always the case. But I don't know if one of the single malts in here is a peated whiskey. I hear tell of tale that there is a little bit of that amongst the blends here. Mostly this is going to be products like Aberfeldy, maybe some Craigellachie in here, and the other ones that are in their portfolio. I think it's the Devron is another one. Some of those single malt scotches you have never heard of because they really only exist to be put into blends. But if it's in the portfolio, you might see it in here. On the nose, bigger nose, you get a little darker scent, a little bit of that leather. On the taste, the first taste is pretty sweet. It's the sweetest of the three here that I've just talked about. But then a little more earthiness comes in, a little bit more of the grain notes come in there. I can feel a little element of what must be corn whiskey in here. It's really nice. Thins out. Very smooth. And I hate that word, but it is smooth. The only thing about this one that I would say that would be great is that all three of these, unfortunately, are bottled at 40%. I would really like to try this one with this aging on it at a little higher ABV, but then that would raise the price. So, the end is a little bit of tobacco and a little bit of a cigar note, and that's probably what, it's kind of a little bit ashy. It's probably coming from the grain whiskey, and that's what I've always, I think, when I was drinking this earlier on, what I was kind of noticing is this like little bit of a leathery kind of note. I think now that my taste and my experience has gotten a little better, I think that's what that is. Again, getting a little bit of a touch there. It's really tasty. It's a perfect whiskey to bring somewhere where you don't know if the Scotch person is, or your intended target, so to speak, is an actual big Scotch aficionado or me, or they just like to have some Scotch. You might not want to bring the white label, plus it looks a little cheap. This is a real nice one. You get it's nice in the box, and it's really good. I don't know that it's going to be a perma-shelf for me, but yeah, when it runs out, and you can see I don't drink it a whole lot, I don't know. The 12-year-old is really a perma-shelf, and I've bought at least 5 or 6 of those over the years. This one maybe not, but this is kind of funny. What I liken this to, although it's nowhere as egregious in terms of sweetness, is you got think of Jack Daniels. You have the Jack Daniels Standard. Then there's that Barrel Select, which has been not Barrel Select. I'm sorry. Then there's Bonded, which is a newer product. There's a Triple Mash. This one is kind of the Gentleman Jack of the Dewars line. It's the sweetest of the three. It's the least offensive. Now, Gentleman Jack, I cannot stand because it's just way too sweet and tastes like you're eating a Bananas Foster that's kind of sat out too long. This is nice. The other thing I mentioned is the extra aging and just that blending puts this in the, would I sip this all night? Would I sip it neat all night? Not because it's really an extremely complex experience, just that there isn't a grainy note. It's not so heavy grainy that note has been toned down. Whereas when I drink white label, I don't sip that neat. I'll put a cube in it. I'm happy. I usually don't drink that when I'm going for taste. I'm just going to some Scotch, and that's it. I'm going to wrap this up soon. I really like this one. Maybe I would like it a little bit more, a couple higher degrees. Here's the good news. Like I said, it's $38. Usually $38, just under $40 all day. But you're going to see it on sale a lot. Like right now at Binny's. Again, I'm not trying to punch them, but go up to the Binny's, find the Dean of Allocations. I won't be too specific, but I live in Albany Park. If you're a Chicago fan, go north and go see the D&aW allocations and pick up a bottle of this, and then pick up a bottle of wine too, because the guy knows his stuff. Check it out. That's cool. Again, in this series of, Dewars White Label is just, you want to have a Scotch on hand. You're doing better with White Label than you are doing Johnnie Walker Red. My personal favorite in terms of flavor profile and complexity is actually now the 12. Okay, now that they've upgraded that with the bourbon casks. This one is really, really nice. It's just a little bit tame for me. But if you want to try a Scotch and get very, very indicative of what's kind of an old school blended Scotch, that is a certain level of quality. This one is fine. Buy it at MSRP, sure. But on sale, I would buy this again. I'm almost tempted, even though I have a whole lot to say, oh, it's on sale, I might grab another one. Maybe not. I have other whiskeys to buy. Other things in this price range that I could associate with this, it's going to be hard to find something at a 15-year age in this price range. But again, it kind of depends on what you're going for. Monkey Shoulder is cheaper than this. That's a malted blend, but that's a little bit of an experience. And if you're not really big on having an experience and getting some bold flavors, maybe that's what you'd stay away from. And the price, and I'm trying to think of other things. This is comparable to the Chivas Regal 13 Manchester United edition, which I think I can put right here. We'll talk about this one, as you can see that's going away soon. That's kind of comparable, but that's hard to find. Okay, that was a limited edition. All right, cool. Be cool. Get yourself some Dewars. Like I said, I wouldn't steer you wrong. My personal opinion, everything here is better than well, that's not my personal opinion. Everything here is better than Johnnie Walker Red. I would say that if you were going to ask me to get Black Label versus this, I'd go with this. All right. Really, these days, the only Johnnie Walker that I want to look at is the Green Label, and I might try to buy that because that's a malted blend. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, there you go. Always go for that second tier. You know what I mean? The one that makes the biggest sales is not always the best among the bunch. All right, have a good one and enjoy Dewars, the Monarch. While I'm waiting, it seems like sometimes every couple of years, like they put the Dewars puts those names on there, like they'll have the ancestor on the 12, and then they take it away. And now, like this, when I bought this one, they don't have the Monarch or the name on that. And now I think if you buy it now, it'll say the Monarch. But that's it. The 12 has always been the ancestor. 15 has always been the Monarch. I'm just a lowly pawn. Ooh. All right. This, by the way, was filmed in Chicago. Listen to all the noise. It's a hellhole.